You ever heard of Nancy Lopez?
No.
Know anything about golf?
Mm-mm.
No.
All right. Well, none of those are prerequisites for this short course this morning. I will tell you, though, that golf is the toughest sport I have ever played. So put a pin there and make a note of that. I'll come back to it in a little while. But let me tell you a little bit about Nancy Lopez. She became a professional golfer in 1978, and I remember when she became a professional golfer because all she did was win. Like she
Mm.
won everything. She won 9 tournaments in her first year, and that
Wow.
is mind blowing in any sport, but particularly in golf because golf is a mentally taxing and very competitive sport, and the advantage goes to those with experience. And when she
Mhm.
joined the LPGA tour, she was probably 21 or 22 years old, but she won 9 tournaments in her first year, and she won 5 of them in a row. And I don't want to date myself, y'all, but I actually remember picking up the newspaper because I was an avid reader of the newspaper. I
Mm.
grew up in a very rural area on a farm, so any connection I had to what they were doing in the big city came through
Mm.
the newspaper and television. So I grabbed the newspaper and always read about who won the baseball game, the football game, the basketball game, and I got interested in golf, even though I didn't really know anything about it. But when I saw that she won every week for 5 weeks in a row, I was like, okay, she's a bad lady, bad lady. So she won 9 times the first season. She won 8 more times in her second season. She won 3 times in 1980, 3 times in 1981, and then she won twice every year from 1982 through 1983 through 1984. So that's a 7 year run of absolute dominance.
Mm.
Now, are y'all tracking how many tournaments did she win overall from 1978 to 1984?
Uh,
Let me wake you up this morning with some math.
um, like 20 something.
20 something is really close.
26?
That's close too.
20. I don't know.
No, come on, come on, come on. Hang in there now. Hang in there. This is a simple test of perseverance and will because we're adding, but we're adding a lot of numbers
Oh.
that are described in words, which makes it a little tougher.
Um,
And I'm
What?
sorry, I meant to do it this way. I absolutely meant to do this to you. Sorry.
is it 29?
It is 29. It is
Yeah.
29. And what does that matter? 20 something is close enough, right? Well, hey, you give honor where it is due, and honor is due to someone who achieved that level of dominance in such a short period of time. So I don't want to slight her and say she won 26 when she won 29. And if I was paying you and I owed you $30 an hour, I wouldn't get away with paying you 20 something dollars an hour, would I?
Mm.
Oh no. No way, no how. Would not get away with that. Yeah, so anyway, the point here is golf is this ultimate test of humility, will, skill, and accuracy. Now, this little exercise we just did was an exercise in accuracy. But now in the game of golf, you are doing a whole lot in your head. You're doing a lot of calculating, you're doing a lot of figuring, you're probably doing a lot of talking to yourself too, because you are faced with a lot of situations that you may not think you will be able to conquer. For
Yeah.
example, on many of the holes you play in golf, you have water hazards. That's either a body of water is down the left side of the hole, it may be on the right side of the hole. You may have to hit your ball over this water to land it
Mm.
on the green. And here's where a golfer like me kind of falls apart because even if you have cheap golf balls,
Mm-hmm.
You have to use a ball on every hole, and if you're lucky, you'll get to use the same ball on all 18 holes of the course because you do well enough where you're always able to find your ball and take it to the next hole.
Mm.
If you're like me, you lose a lot of balls because you kind of don't know what you're doing. And even if you have cheap golf balls, they cost $3 a piece. The cheap ones.
Wow.
The cheap ones cost $3 a piece. I gotta say it again for the people in the back. So if I lost my golf ball on every hole, I go through 18 golf balls in one hole. I've gone through $54 worth of golf balls.
Oh, wow.
So ladies, I'm not losing that ball. There's no way in this world I'm gonna lose that ball. But this forces you to make some careful decisions. So let's say you're on a hole and there's water to your left. And I have been on this hole many times in my life. If I
Mm-hmm.
see water at the hole, my ball's going to go in the water. You know why?
My.
It is all that I'm thinking about. All I'm thinking about is not hitting my ball in that water. And that's like a magnet that pulls the ball into the water. So I had to learn to develop, they call it a swing thought. There's so many details and so much complication in this game. You will run
Mm.
yourself insane if you're trying to manage all those thoughts at one time. So golf teachers teach you what we call a swing thought. You find one thing that you're going to focus on and you forget about everything else.
Mm.
So when there's water at a hole, my swing thought becomes grass. I'm going to hit the ball and land it on the grass. Ladies, I don't care if I land it on the grass on the other side of this fence on the wrong hole. As long as I'm on grass, I'm all right. I just don't want to end up in the water.
Yeah.
And that kind of worked for me for a long time. Just have a swing thought of something very positive, a very positive outcome. And more times than not, you will achieve a positive outcome. And that becomes a lesson that goes beyond golf, as many of these lessons that I share kind of do. It's got a lot to do with golf. It's got a lot more to do with life. I use the swing thought on tests. There's so many things you can think
Mm-hmm.
about on a test. Well, only thing I'm thinking about is succeeding. So at
Yeah.
every problem, especially if it's a problem I don't know how to do, I got to keep my mind on succeeding. And what success means when I run up on a problem I know I don't know how to do is I may have to come back to that problem later.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm going to go and wrestle with the ones that I can wrestle with. And when I come back to it later, having conquered and achieved something on the other problems, I may look at this problem a little differently. Or sometimes in the cold, hard world we live in, I may look at this problem exactly the same. It's like, this is no easier now than it was 15 minutes ago. Well, guess what? I'm going to skip it. What's the worst thing that happens? If there are 25 questions, I've answered 22 of them, and there are three that I just can't do. Well, I may just take my chances with the ones that I've answered, and that might be all right.
Yeah.
And as crazy as that sounds, that is a test taking strategy that I would share with anybody, whether it's a standardized test or whether it's a normal classroom test. Now, it's definitely effective on standardized tests because standardized tests penalize you for incorrect answers. So if you've
Mm.
answered most of the questions and there's some you can't do, it's okay to leave it alone because you're penalized for incorrect answers. And if you've answered most of the tests, yeah, you'll probably do just fine resting on the ones that you have been able to do and leaving the rest of them alone. And you walk out of the test with a lot less stress.
Yeah. I,
And that is very okay. Yeah, I'm supposed to be talking about golf. I'm sorry. Uh, let's go back to 1983 and 1984, where she won two tournaments. She only played half the season in both of those seasons. Guess why?
why?
She had a child in each year.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so she couldn't play the whole season, but the part she did play in, she still dominated.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, now there's one of those situations that, ladies, female athletes have to deal with that the gentlemen don't quite deal with in the same way. Even if you're a gentleman who says, well, I'm not going to play the rest of the season because I'm going to be at home helping my wife with our child.
Mm.
But pats on the back to any guy who does that, but that does not even compare with having the child.
Yeah.
That's not even close. And trust me, I was in the delivery room, and I wanted to be somewhere else. It's like, yeah, yeah. I had heard all the stories, boy, but boy, when you in there, oh, it's so real. It is so real. Yeah. So if she played at all during that season, doesn't matter whether it was before she had the baby, because it would be amazing then because you're swinging a golf club and you're pregnant. Or even if
Mm.
it was after she had the child, it's like, wow, you just had a child X weeks ago, and you're swinging a golf club again. Wow. Oh, wow. Wow.
That's crazy.
Yes, that was, yeah, yeah. So Nancy's story has flowed slightly differently than the first several that I told because she is the first athlete that I have featured. Now, I don't know if you are tracking here, but what I'm doing with each of these is I'm trying to avoid sports and entertainment
Mm.
because that's where we find most of our cultural icons, regardless of our culture. We find those icons in sports and entertainment, and they are usually icons because of some athletic or entertainment exploit, and that tends to marginalize people who are very influential. We marginalize them through their success, which I find particularly heinous, but that's the world that we live in. But when I tell these stories, I want to tell you about the success, but I want that to kind of be the first sentence in a paragraph, and the other sentences
Mm.
I would like to focus on intangibles like resilience, grit, work ethic, confidence, humility. I want to focus on things like that so that you know a little bit more about the whole person, because if you know about the whole person, you probably would find it much easier to embrace and even emulate their success because it will feel attainable to you because you see they're regular people.
Mm.
They're real people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so as best I can, I will probably alternate. I'll go male, female, and then I'll start hopping around. I've done two educators so far. I did a congresswoman last week, so we've done an athlete today. I had a student recommend another athlete, a soccer slash football player by the name of Ronaldinho.
Mm.
So I'm gonna feature him soon. And then I had my wife recommended Dr. Ellen Ochoa, who is an astronaut. So I said, okay, that'll work.
Mm.
Yeah. And she is now the head of the Johnson Space Flight Center, I think in Huntsville, Alabama. That one might be in Florida. I get the NASA stations mixed up, but she runs one of the NASA stations, and she is a former
Oh.
astronaut. So yes, her story would be great to tell. Sonia Sotomayor is a Supreme Court justice. I will tell her story. And if y'all have any stories that you want me to tell, just as one of my former students suggested Ronaldinho, I will take
Mm-hmm.
suggestions, and I'm trying to make sure I can cover the entire month of 30 days, but you can't fit anybody's history into a month, especially not the shortest month of the year. Oh yeah, that was a Black History
Yeah.
Month plug. Sorry for that shameless plug. But yeah, you can't fit anybody's culture into a month. But
Yeah.
what you can do is in that month you can find what you'll feature in subsequent months, and I may even dare Citlalli in heaven to speak to you about the cultures of minority peoples outside
Mm.
of their assigned history month. Would that not shake the earth at its foundation if I talk to y'all about Hispanic and Brazilian heritage in the month of December?
No.
Like, you can do that, right?
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, you can do that. Somebody would make a phone call, and I will share with y'all in all candor. At my first school, I got in big trouble. I'm talking capital T trouble for
Oh.
having a question on a scavenger hunt. This is this tool that I used in the early days of the internet to teach students the skill of carefully reading when they go to a website.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's one thing to look it up on Google, but you have to actually decipher and interpret what Google tells you so you know which one provides you an answer and which one takes you down a rabbit hole. I had a question about, I want to say it was George Washington Carver. I mean, the person happened to be black.
Mm-hmm.
And that got reported to the principal by 3 different students
Oh my gosh.
as as me having them do that black
Oh.
stuff after Black History Month because I didn't get to do this scavenger hunt during February, so I did it. It was on something crazy like March the 2nd, March the 3rd, something
Oh
like that.
my gosh. What the?
And I took a trip to the principal's office. I sure did, and it took everything in me to not laugh out loud. But it told me, "Hey
Like,
man, you are you are living in a day and time where amazing things like this are probably going to happen again. So you take it as a word to the wise. You ain't gonna stop doing what you're doing, but you have to understand how people respond and react to these things, especially if they don't say it to you." Because even if one student had done it, that would have alerted me. But 3 different students? Oh no. Oh wow. Sounds like I need to go somewhere else. So I got that memo. I went somewhere else. But just the
mm,
same, it was a good lesson to learn that yeah, everybody's not 100% in love with these things. They may tolerate them, but that doesn't mean they like them.
mm-hmm.
And it's not my job to make them like it or dislike it. It is my job to make sure that people who look like us, who aren't always represented or respected, I want us to all feel a little more respected by somebody actually respecting us.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay.
Mm.
All right, so yeah, enough about all of that. You guys got any ingenuity stuff going on?
Uh, no,
All right.
not
And,
today.
and Heaven and Citlalli, there's a lot more to say about the game of golf that relates very well to math. Now we'll save that for future conversations, but just the visualization necessary to succeed in this game and the real-time computation. You're doing simple computations, but things like you've got 14 clubs in your golf bag. You're allowed to take 14 tools with you. Each of these tools will hit that golf ball in a different way, make it travel a certain distance. So I think about 10 of those tools are called irons,
Mm-hmm.
and these are clubs that have different angles. If you can see my hands, the club is angled so that it will make the ball go higher or farther. The closer the angle is to a straight angle, a 180-degree angle, the more likely it is to make the ball go high.
Mm-hmm.
And the closer the club is angled to a right angle, a 90-degree angle, that makes the ball go far. And what you're taught is you're taught to swing the same way with each one of these clubs and to let the loft of the club's angle,
Mm-hmm.
do the work of taking it higher or farther. You do the same swing, the angle of the club takes the ball higher or farther. So if you're on that hole with the water in front of you and you got to hit the ball 150 yards to get over the water, then what I know is I got to hit something really low. I got to hit like a 3 iron, or I might even have to hit a 5 wood. These are the clubs with the big heads on them,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what I have to use in order to make that ball go 160 yards. Because if it's got to go at least 150, I'm not trying to hit it exactly 150. I might need to hit a little bit farther to make sure that I don't lose my $3 ball.
Yeah.
And I have to trust the math that says, hey man, you put the same swing on this that you would with any other club, and the angle of the club is going to determine how far that ball will go. Now you have to train. I mean, train, and practice and discipline yourself to be able to do that and then to trust that you'll be able to do it when your hands are shaking. Because the first thing that happens when I see the water, y'all, is my hands start shaking. So when I'm at the driving range and I'm practicing, I'm cool as a cucumber. My hands are never shaking. The first thing that happens when I see that water is I get the shaky shakes. Now I have to do everything that I've learned while my hands are shaking. Okay, that makes it a little trickier. But I have seen more times than not that, yeah, this kind of is how it works. That's some math at work there. So then I became obsessed with the angles of each of the clubs, and I started learning how to do things like work the ball. Like you can hit the ball. Whenever you hit the ball, that's going to take a parabolic path, a curved path,
Mm-hmm.
but you can make it curve in multiple planes. Like, okay, let's say you're in the XY plane and you make it curve that way, but you can also make it kind of curve in the YZ plane. You can make it curve from left to right. It curves up and down. You can also curve it left to right, depending on where your hands are when you meet the ball. That's a lot of technical stuff there, but um, Tiger Woods is particularly good at what they call working the ball. Like if he wants it to move from right to left severely, he knows you have to strike the ball on the outer half of the ball to make it go right to left. And if you want it to go left to right, you have to strike it on the inner half. Just very fine-tuned technical stuff that you have to practice forever. But once you've done it and realize how hard it is for you to do, and then you watch somebody do it and it's easy for them,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you realize, okay, I don't think there's any sport more difficult than this one. And it's very fun to watch people who are excellent in one sport say, I can master golf. And then, yeah, and then watch them chop all the dirt up on the golf course because they don't know what they're doing. And they think
Yeah.
it's easy. They think it's easy because they've seen somebody make it look easy, but that person made it look easy because they really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Golf sounds really very difficult.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's fascinating. Now it's also culturally speaking. I don't always feel comfortable or welcome at a golf course. I think I could say it like that
Yeah.
because there is a culture around it, and it's a culture of exclusivity. And
Mm.
when I was younger, exclusivity sounded like it meant that's where you want to be. And I was like, no, exclusivity kind of means they don't want everybody up in there.
Yeah.
And you get that feeling now, even today, ladies, even at golf clubs where I am a member,
Oh, wow.
I carry the card on my bag because nobody is gonna come up to you thinking you're a member. They come up to you wondering what the heck you doing there. You got on golf shoes, you got on an Argyle sweater, you got on a hat with balls on it, and you're carrying a big bag of clubs. What else would you be there to do?
Right.
But they will still ask you why you were there. So I carry the credentials on the bag, and then I put the bag down and let the credentials flop over, and they say, "Oh, you're one of our members." I say, I sure am. I write the check every year, man. You got me
Mm.
thinking about not writing it anymore, though. So yeah, there are some courses I've played at and realized, yeah, man, they still don't want you here, man. They don't want you here. They don't want you here.
Yeah.
So you go to another course and you let them know that you were at this other course and they weren't that cool about your money, so my money left. Hint, hint, hint. It'll leave again. And that's as much as I can do, but I will do that. I'll let you know, man, if you don't appreciate me, you don't appreciate my money either. You don't appreciate the money of anybody that I know, because I will tell it. I will tell it.
Mm.
Yeah, don't go play over there, man. Don't go play over
Mm.
there. All right, I digress. You ladies are sound in heart and mind and have no other needs or concerns. At this point, we can depart and convene again tomorrow. I'll have another fantastic story. Or if you have some ingenuity concerns, now we can always throw those up on the board and talk about them as well.
Okay.
All right.
Have a great day.
All right. Good to see everybody. And I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Bye.
All right. Bye bye.